Welcome, everybody, to the news segment, July 23rd, 2021. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, if you're listening to the pod, why don't you join us live? We're live 7 p.m. Eastern, Fridays. And the news segment starts about 8 o'clock Eastern, so if you just like the news and you want to hear us talk about news live and interact with us, of course, you can interact with us at betterondraft.tv or facebook.com/betterondraft or youtube.com/betterondraft. All those are available to you to say hi to us. Thank you for everyone who was listening in the chat earlier today, including we had Megan, Melanie, Richard, Jose, Lil George, plenty of people in the chat. Thank you so much again for joining us. Going around real quick, I want to see what everybody is drinking. We'll start with Nicholas.
I am drinking a Wild Little Thing from Sierra Nevada. Before that, I drank a Wild Little Thing from Sierra Nevada. I brought the entire 6-pack with me.
There you go.
That's a Ken move right there. When you drink the same beer so many times in a day. Robert, what are you drinking?
Right now, I am going to be sipping on the Shandy from Old Nation.
Oh, it's such a good beer.
Yes.
What about you, Dan?
Re-ups on my Stoli. And I do have this hazy IPA from Sierra Nevada.
All right. That was actually a pretty good hazy IPA for sure. Not very bitter, not very juicy, just kind of a smooth, easy to drink beer.
Yeah.
Wendy, what about you?
So I am finishing up the Wild Little Things, but I also have a Summer Break, which is their Session Hazy IPA. I'm interested to try this because I'm going to take it to my family reunion tomorrow.
Nice.
Well, we were kind of talking about it during the episode, the interview with Sierra Nevada. That's Better on Draft 264. Go check it out if you haven't already. But I decided to grab a beer from a brewery that I have not probably had this beer in 6-7 years. It was definitely a craft beer must for a while. In the city of Detroit, if you listen to Sports Talk Radio, it was mentioned a bunch of times because it's not a local beer, but it was one of the host's favorite beer. And that is a Magic Hat number 9.
Wow.
Now, I don't know the last time any of you guys drank it. I haven't drank it in a while.
Long time.
What happened was that Magic Hat number 9 came out, and then I got introduced to Castle Bright. And I'm like, well, I don't fucking need Magic Hat number 9 anymore. But because we had Sierra Nevada on, I'm like, you know what? Let's give it another shot. So that is what I'm going to be drinking during this this episode for the news. And as always with this episode,
here is Robert with the beer news.
That's pretty good timing still. Every single time. I feel like you have a timer that says how long the beer news intro is. What did you just chug, Rob?
So that was from Bottle Logic. It's called Peach Beach. It is a fruit sour ale with peaches, blackberries, cheesecake, graham cracker, and vanilla granola.
Why?
That's
this
amazing.
Clocks in at 8.5%.
I love that you just chugged that. How did you get that, number one, and then you just chugged it in like 5 seconds?
It is, and that's the thing, is that it is a really good sipper for sure. And like you really, like, with everything that is listed on there, you can just, like, within yourself individualize every single flavor and just pick it out. And that's the crazy thing with Bottle Logic, is like everything that they do, it just seems to be so crazily balanced. Now, I think it's called Degrees of Motion, which is their barrel aged Oreo stout. I need to try that again because I wasn't really sold on it. I was having too much problems with the chocolate taste from a stout and the chocolate taste from the Oreo cookies, and not really catching it there. So, you know, everything else has been awesome. And I have my little contact. Shout out to my man Matthew, who lives not too far away from Bottle Logic, and he basically picks it up for me and ships it out here. So,
yeah, great place.
That's my guy. All right, so first thing that we're going to start with is a story about Boston Beer Company, as they apparently have overestimated the growth of the hard seltzer category in their second quarter, and the demand for the company's truly hard seltzer, which was brought up in the press release announcing the company's second quarter earnings results. Those results basically caused Boston Beer Co.'s stock price to take a hit as it dropped from roughly $947 a share, which I really did not know it was that high.
Wow.
But it dropped from $947 pretty much like overnight to just over $700. So it was a very significant drop. Jim Koch, founder and chairman of the company, said in a statement that, quote, the hard seltzer category and overall beer industry were softer than we had anticipated, and that the hard seltzer category growth was negatively impacted by several developments, being slowing growth in household penetration as the market matures and there's less new trial, gradual transition of volume to the on-premise channel as hard seltzer becomes a more regular option in that channel, new hard seltzer brands at retail that resulted in a proliferation of choices and consumer confusion, and a challenging comparative period of significant pantry loading related to on-premise restrictions in the second quarter of 2020. The question to you guys is that with this drop that has happened with Boston Beer Co., is it just a drop that maybe it's just because people don't like Truly and they're finding better hard seltzer? Or is this maybe a trend that with everything that we've been having come out from gluten-free to alcohol-free to hard kombucha, that the segment just is not going to grow as much as people thought in originally?
Before I pass it off to one of you guys, if you guys are watching on the video or if you're listening to the pod, obviously you can check out the video. I've got the last 5 years of Sam Adams or Boston Beer Co. on the screen right now from Yahoo Finance. And to give you some context, the last time the brand was at this low at 701 was in June of 2020. At June 1st, they were at $536 per share. And since then, July 2020, they were at 810 and have been up and up until literally today.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give you guys that context before the conversation continues. Go on.
Today was a huge hit. I've seen a lot of. I mean, I mess around with stocks a little bit, and I've seen, the quarter numbers come out, and I've seen ebbs and flows of things going up and down. I can't remember the last time I've seen something where it just took that big of a hit within hours. So yeah, that's what, like I said, where I'm wondering is that did hard seltzer already jump the shark, or it's just a Boston beer thing?
Did it jump the shark? Absolutely not. I think it's still a huge part of the market that will continue to grow. We see this with the likes of Oddside Ales locally, and not locally. We see the bigger dogs, we'll call them. So your Sam Adams, your Mark Anthony, your Corona, Coors, like they play by a different game. They have to worry about full country distribution. They have to worry about fighting, because those who are fighting, like Truly versus Corona versus Mick, they're all fighting for a different segment than Oddside is with New Belgium and all these other smaller breweries making, because Truly is on the level of the big dogs here. They're on the level of Corona, Mark Anthony, Michelob, whatever other seltzer, Bud Light seltzer. Mark Anthony is White Claw.
Okay.
So they went up against them, and to be honest, I just don't think they were able to produce as well, and therefore they couldn't eat up enough of the market. You're not coming from the wars. You did not become a synonym. White Claw is literally the word for hard seltzer in our lexicon. So when you lost that war, so then you're fighting secondary against Bud Light Seltzer, Mick Ultra, Coors Seltzer, and Coors was the first one to drop it off and be like, "Hey, we ain't doing this anymore." But Coors has a
Right.
much larger portfolio where it's not going to hurt them. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree. I've seen a few head nods, yes, but I'm definitely up for other opinions. But for me, I don't think they overextended, but in the same sense, I don't know if it was worth a 26% drop in the stock price overnight.
Well, the stock was overvalued. Let's be honest. And
Well, that's
Truly,
fair.
I mean, Truly is kind of garbage compared to every other option that you name there. So it's not really surprising. They'll probably be the next hit of ones that aren't out there or end up going away.
You think?
Yet 90% of the people I know that drink seltzer are drinking Truly.
Yeah.
That's
I
kind of
was gonna say-
surprising because I don't know anyone that drinks Truly. I mean, this is all anecdotal on both sides, but I don't know anyone who even asks or looks for a Truly.
Oh, that's all my my in-laws drink when it comes to seltzers. It's Truly, and there's been at least 3 to 4, maybe even half a dozen parties where they're not coming in with a 12 or 2 12s of Truly. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know,
I'm gonna hop on that too, because when I was out and about traveling, when I was working for Toast, Truly was the lowest grammed seltzer that was readily available anywhere. They were 1 gram per can, and this is obviously very anecdotal to me, but
Sure,
I would always
sure.
drink Truly just because, one, you could get a multi-pack, and for me, it was a lot easier. When you're what we call ourselves road warriors, and you're on the road traveling and stuff, I could easily be like, hey, you can either pay for this 12-pack of hard seltzer, or I'm gonna buy 2 shots of whiskey, which is my daily allowance, and charge way more than 12 seltzers. And
Let me go
on,
ahead.
man.
Sorry.
No. That was the end of the story.
Let me ask you. That was a couple of years ago. Are you picking up Truly now at 1 carb, or are you picking up Mick or Corona at 0 carbs?
I'm picking up organic Mick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Things have changed. I think they were always mediocre. There's a lot better options out there now.
Oh. All right. Well, that's.
What about you, Rob? What are you drinking?
Yeah, Rob.
seltzers? What, just because you tell us the news doesn't mean you don't get a chance to talk about the news.
Yeah, the opinions of Robert that do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Better on Draft.
Yes, they do. What?
Right.
Rob's like, I pulled that stuff in the toilet.
The only time you get to say it is when I get to say it, when I say something really off base.
Right.
But then everyone forgets that I run the company. I was like, oh yeah, Ken, the owner and founder of Better on Draft Media LLC. His opinions do not reflect Better on Draft. What?
I mean, I kind of feel like with hard seltzer, I guess for my own opinion, I don't really feel like it's going anywhere. I feel like, from even from the stuff that is here locally, from the breweries that make their own to Smooge coming from Troubadour, aka Holmes Brewing, that is, I mean, hell, they're in the process of, or not in the process, they have already started distributing Smooge to New York, and they actually just actually another shout out to Holmes because they have a new production location that they're opening up. That's not that far from the brewery. More like I'm not sure if it's a brew pub or production facility, but they're opening a second location over there. So shout out to them. It's just with all the seltzers and the different seltzers that are coming out, from the regular seltzer to the smoothie style to I think that's what's going to happen. It's just like people are just going to start coming up with different styles of the seltzer. It's still going to be there. I mean, and it's not going anywhere because there's more than enough people that are here that have celiacs that can't drink beer. And while there are those gluten-free options out there for gluten-free beer, there's probably still going to be people that are going to be out there and just drinking it and thinking to themselves, it's not beer to them, and they want other options. And there's people who don't drink beer who want other options. And here's your seltzer, here's your kombucha beers, and I think it's just Boston beers truly that just truly isn't that good.
I think we're also forgetting the fact that we've had a lot of the craft cocktails in cans come out recently, and
That
that's
too.
what everybody's buying right now. That High Noon just got released, and everybody's talking about it.
And
So
to,
there's
to top
quite
that
a
too,
few.
the RTDs with the distribution where you can get ready to drink cocktails from a bar or from, I mean, I could never have thought of a day where I could go to a bar, and even though I was paying bar prices, like I've said it on the show before, Hibiki 17, one of my favorite whiskeys that I've ever had, and the fact that I could go to a bar, pay bar prices, but take it home on a whiskey that I can't get normally, that gives me the opportunity to literally not have to go sit and be part of the bar. I can go in and drink this amazing whiskey on my own the time I want to, too. Like, I don't have to run and chase after that shot. I can just drink that shot of whiskey whenever I want. And I think that, and at least Michigan, that changed a lot. That's, again, really specifically anecdotal to me. But between the High Noon, the ready to drinks, the vodka spritzers, that's what they're called. The vodka, not energy, but vodka drinks that you can get right on the shelves. Those are crushing it. So
The
yeah,
option.
I think you're reaching into a competition, and as much as they had the backing, the marketing, and the production, they just couldn't keep up, both taste and production wise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like I said, there's just so much variety and so much competition that's out there. Well, that's just what it's going to be. So we'll see where it goes from this point on. And I guess if Boston beer can recover, we'll see. I guess this is the point for anybody who are any accredited investors out there. It's low. Go buy it right now.
Again, I mean, we're only at a 13-month low. Like this,
Right.
as Dan mentioned, we're not fucking financial advisors, for the love of
Don't
God.
take
Yeah, thanks for that. I was getting ready to throw that in there too. It's like we are in no way, shape, or form financial advisors. Do not take my advice. You might take a loss. You might take a gain. That's on you.
Yeah, if I had extra money, I still wouldn't touch it right now. I think that's just way too dangerous of a stock, where I don't think it's going to crash. Like, I don't think you're going to go much further down, but I don't see an upside to them right now.
Right.
Unless they make a big deal, like they buy someone or anything like that. But what else we got in the news?
So we got some info, or rather a story that's covering the beer industry here in Michigan, and that there's this report from the National Beer Wholesalers Association called the Beer Serves America Report, which measures the impact of the malt beverage industry as defined by its three tiers, of course, brewing, wholesaling, and retailing, on the entire U.S. economy. It has been, according to the report, that Michigan's beer industry had an overall economic impact of $9.9 billion in 2020, and supported almost 67,000 jobs at breweries, distributors, retailers, and more. At 9.9, that is, I mean, even with it being billions, that's just a couple billion away from the revenue that is made by the NFL every damn year. So it just seems like that is a lot that is there. But it did also say that overall, the industry contributes $331.8 billion in economic output, which is equivalent to about 1.6% of the GDP. Now, I was looking at the production by state numbers for 2020, and Michigan was fifth at about 802,000 barrels for 2020. Obviously, still well behind that of California, Pennsylvania, and New York, which, I mean, and Florida. I don't see there's any way that unless we get maybe 300 more breweries that we even move from 10th to 6th, because we just don't have the state room, I don't think, to even do it. But with the beer industry here being so high, it makes me feel like it kind of goes back to some of the other stories that we've talked about with other breweries that come into the state. And it feels like other breweries that try to come in the state, if they look at that number, I feel like they should be a little worried that our beer is probably going to make your beer obsolete.
Are you talking out of town, like out of state breweries?
I'm talking out of state breweries.
Well, hold on there, because if you look at Oath and M4, they bring in out of state breweries, and they're part of this list too.
Oath does as well. I forgot about them.
Yeah, Oath, M4, obviously
M4.
Fabiano or whoever else, Powers. You know, that second tier and third tier still count towards this business, or the second tier at least, not the third tier. But in the third tier for selling Michigan beer, not for selling non-Michigan beer. With that in mind, I didn't realize how crazy it is that the Michigan beer industry is basically as much money as the NFL, because the NFL is ridiculous. And we just need to make the Michigan beer industry nonprofit, and there we go. We'd be just like the NFL.
And it was close. Well, I guess the thing is that it was close. I mean, it's still off by about a little over $2 billion from the NFL's revenue last year. But of course, last year was the pandemic year, and there was barely any fans in the stands. And the NFL next year will be somewhere around 16 to 17. And then
last year people weren't in restaurants, and restaurants cater a much bigger volume to, or dollar to volume versus buying retail.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, who knows what it'll be, but I feel like this is a really good number to see. And most importantly, just because this number is high does not mean your favorite brewery is doing extremely well, and you need to go see them. Like, I'm excited. Dan's coming into town tomorrow, and I'm gonna go take him to some of the new breweries that he hasn't had a chance to been to, because it's been a couple years since he's really been in town. And yeah, there's just so much that's happened in Michigan that is positive, and I think more Michigan breweries can contribute to this number. I don't think, and I brought it up, and I was looking at the production numbers because I was starting to fill out, because I still haven't gotten a chance to fill out the massive table, but there is still a lot of production that can get filled here in Michigan. And on top of that, local production, like breweries that do not distribute, you can still hand off 250 to 300 barrels just by yourself.
Right.
You look at the folks like the which is a brew pub, the WAB 240, they do 240, or not. I don't know if they're a brew pub because they distribute to their other entities. What's that pool hall they have? Not Plush Pocket, different pool hall. But like the WAB can distribute Copper Hop 355. I don't think they distribute anywhere. So you can still pull off a decent number of production without having to exit your city. So I think there's still plenty of room for breweries to go in Michigan. And you know what's going to be the test case is that Gaylord beer store, the one that's not going to have any Michigan beer in there.
Oh, yes.
That's really going to tell you if a non-Michigan beer-specific store can exist in the state of Michigan. And if it works up in Gaylord, where they're going to be focusing on craft and import that aren't Bud Light and Budweiser, it'll easily work down here in Detroit, Metro Detroit.
Well, get that business plan going.
I have. It's called The Beer Run. I wrote it 12 years ago.
I remember that.
And then 8 Degrees came out, and it was basically my beer store.
They didn't have the piss water section, though.
I might have had that. I don't think I had that in the actual business plan.
Oh, it wasn't actually in it.
Because that was a school thing. But no, you can easily. I think you could easily have an import store in here that specializes it, where if someone says I'm looking for, and the answer is not a Michigan brewery, that's what Merchants was a decade ago.
Yeah.
You can do that. and be the current merchants here in Michigan and
Mhm.
rock it. But the thing is that you don't want to take that gamble of not holding fucking Two Hearted or um, Oberon or any
Right.
other massive
All
craft beer
day.
in Michigan. I said craft beer,
Well,
Dan.
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
tell you what, after last week's King of the Hill, where none of us knew any of the answers to the international beers, I was like, I think I'm going to drink an international beer during our King of the Hill.
Oh boy.
And then she bought Labatt
It's
Blue.
not easy to find an international beer that is not Belgian.
Yeah, Labatt
that
There's
Blue would
probably
be
a few
perfect.
English
in a
beers you
regular
could
store.
find.
You
And
have to
that
go
was
to a store that has a large international selection in order to get something.
and that was the good thing about merchants, Rest and Ops, that that store had a section where they had the beer that was broken up by it was broken up by country.
Yep.
And it was kind of a cool thing where I didn't buy a whole lot of it, but it was kind of cool to just kind of walk through and just like see one rack that was just all Jamaica. Obviously one that was Germany, one that was Belgium, one that was Austria, but then you had Jamaica, and then you had like a little section that had like the some more of the island countries, and then Australia, and it was just like so many different beers that were there. And for the metropolitan Detroit area, that was the store. And for anything that was international, obviously the stores have their own import section. But most of the imports, at least from what I always see, is that it's Trappist beers. And there's nothing wrong with Trappist beers, but
Not at all.
it's just like, hey, I want to try something from, hell, I don't know, try something from Mongolia. If you have a beer from Mongolia, I might try it. If you have something from from Israel, something.
You know what you need? You need, and you're ready for this, because so Lager House 5 has like beer you can get to go, but you need a brewery that specializes in your Belgian, German, French style of beers, and then sells and has like a store that imports all of these other beers. And you could literally be like, hey, this is an English brown. Now you can go and try an English brown. Or hey, this is a Belgian strong, like a triple. Here's a few triples for you to try back here, to take home. Like that. There you go. There's a business plan. You know what? You know who would have been perfect for this too? Fucking Travis Fritz.
The
God
ever
damn it, he's such a good
asshole
brewer.
nation, yes, he would. He would be.
So in our chat tonight, we had Jose Juan Cervantes, and he's from Cozumel. I actually met him at his international beer bar in Cozumel. And when I went in there, I was like, I want to try your local beer. And he was so excited to show me the local beer that I'm pretty sure that's why he remembered me and why we're still friends. And I still go and visit him every time I go there. And I got to bring him Michigan beer. It was awesome. But I want to try different things. I don't want to just try the same thing all the time. And as much as I love to support local, obviously I do that on a regular basis. I also want to try other things and see what other countries are doing and what they have to offer.
Right. You don't want to spend a whole bunch of money flying to Cozumel and like, you know what? We're going to go eat at Denny's. You can fucking have
Right.
Denny's at home. Try the shit that's in the area where that's why
I don't know. I flew out to Phoenix to visit a friend, and he took me to the Cracker Barrel.
Don't bitch. I took you to some other good places too.
You did. Rob, give me one more quick news article.
Yeah. I was gonna say if Dan, if you didn't take him to Lolo's, you're doing it wrong.
I didn't think to take him there. That is a good place.
Oh, you got to take him there. You got to take him there. All right. So there was one I wanted to bring up. There's a little bit of a, I guess, in talking about stocks and investing, there's an investment opportunity that I read about on Brewbound about Inglewood, California-based craft brewing company called Crowns and Hops. They have been working on getting their own facility, and they had launched a equity crowdfunding campaign earlier this week to raise money for a new flagship restaurant and brew pub. They started this campaign called Own Crowns, which is inviting donors to invest a minimum of $250 to become a shareholder of the company, which essentially is valued at $5 a share. And a member of this group that they're calling the Original Gangsters Founders Crew. The Tail Hunter, one of the co-founders, he said, "We're not just asking for a donation. We're not just asking for charity. We're asking for investment." And they're really trying to put this brewery out there. And it is going to be, or rather that it is a Black-owned brewery, which is few and far between in this country, as you know, it is less than 1% breweries being Black-owned, according to a 2019 survey by the Brewers Association. So far, the campaign has raised, I'm going to the website and refreshing to see if it's actually changed, but it looks like they have raised $140,750 through 232 investors. They're hoping that they can get to a million, but you know, if they get there, great. If they don't, they still have the money to hopefully get everything started and get everything running. But you know, they would ideally like to raise more and extend the program that they're trying to create for the future. The one thing I was really curious about was one of the statements that was in here, where it was said that the crowdfunding model is such an important way for small businesses to raise capital without giving up too much of their own equity, while also giving back to the community, allowing them to have a part of it as well. The way the community is showing up right for us right now is pretty phenomenal, and we would want to be able to offer this opportunity to as many people as we can without limiting it. Obviously, we see a lot of breweries that just pop up, going through Kickstarters and Indiegogos and Main Invest and all these other avenues to raise capital. What I'm curious of with you guys is that when you see these breweries that come up and they're just, and I don't want to say like they're asking for money, but you know, in a way they are asking for money, that do you feel like they as breweries give you enough of a good feeling where they're going to last long enough to make your investment worth it? Or is it just kind of, I don't know, it's like, why are you asking for money when, you know, you're trying to start a brewery? You should be having your money on your own, and just like not, and as I hate the fucking phrase, but pulling up your bootstraps and doing your own shit and not counting on others to help start your business model that you're the only one who's going to make money off of.
I have a couple things to say about that.
Go for it, Wendy.
Go for it.
So, Can Brew Works did a Kickstarter, and I was really excited because they were the first brewery in the craft beer wasteland that I would be able to be a part of, and I missed it by literally 2 people.
Whole bunch
and I was so disappointed. It's the only way I could have gotten a purple mug, for God's sakes, which was devastating at the time. It was a long time ago, but I think that Kickstarter actually helped get them to the place they're at today, because those people who invested in that Kickstarter, they're the ones that are still coming around and making sure that everything's going good. They're the ones that when you go in, they're like, they make you feel like family. I know a lot of those people that still have those mugs that, you know, they didn't upgrade to the new fancy mugs when they came in, because that makes you feel like you're a part of the brewery.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think that I feel like they're just like, get your own money to start this thing up, because it's expensive to start a brewery. I remember when Batch was starting out, it was like a year or two. And that's just from my memory, and my time's not always right, but I just remember they were supposed to open, and then there was all these things that happened. I just think that people don't realize how much it actually costs to open a brewery. And we just had Sierra Nevada on, and one of the podcasts that I had listened to about them opening the brewery was that they had to ask for funding like 4 or 5 times before they really got on their feet, because it was so expensive to make it happen. And they were making their own equipment because they couldn't afford to buy equipment, because back in the 80s you could only get it from Europe. So they were making stuff out of soda equipment and things like that. So I think that asking early on makes people feel like they're a part of the company, even if they're not necessarily getting money back on that investment. It still makes them feel like they're part of it.
I'm going to pass it to Nick after I say this, because I know he's going to have a response. But for me specifically, there are so many people. There was a time in 2016, 2017 when a lot of breweries were first starting, and it seemed like everyone and their mother had a brewery plan. And I think at that time, which is kind of around the time that Canton Brew Works was in the process of doing the Kickstarter, I think a lot of people held the money a little closer to their vest, just because, one, they haven't seen it before, two, there was so many. And while I don't recall, there is one I recall that was really bad, and I will mention it here in a minute. But for the most part, I don't recall too many Kickstarters for breweries that failed, where the brewery failed itself. Now, did you get the investment you put into the Kickstarter? Yes or no? Can't answer that. I don't remember the rules and regulations. I've got the Start Engine website for Crowns and Hops in front of me, and it's nothing really that I would put money into based on the price. There's one thing as we get into 2021 that I think people should look into, and as much as I joke about that Netflix show Brewery Brothers, putting in, and we talked about the Denver Beer for Life, NFT, and there's others. I think those are the types of benefits that getting the money now could turn it, because one, Beer for Life, as much as you're not selling that $5 pint, that pint costs you $1 to make. Say $2, including everything like time and people and ingredients. But when you factor in, like, there are definitely better ways to go to get your collection of money from your local community. And while Crowns and Hops does have a community that will get behind them, the black beer culture community, not everyone has that, and therefore not everyone will be able to benefit. And the brewery that I'm thinking of that did not have a backing and looked for money and didn't get it, which is Little Biscuit, which was a brewery that was supposed to open up on Gratiot. Now, sure, they did it and the pandemic happened and things changed. Quite possible. But in the same sense, I just, when I go to invest, and we had the opportunity, and I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't take the opportunity to invest in Ashley Price over at Metropolitan Valley in Detroit. I didn't take that opportunity, but in the same sense, I knew Ashley was an amazing beer sales rep, but as a business owner, I didn't have too much, and I didn't have a personal rapport with him to make that decision. And that doesn't mean I didn't trust him. But for me, living in Detroit and understanding the city of Detroit, because I lived in Detroit, not Detroit, I did not agree with where he placed the business and the business plan. But in the same sense, look at it's the industry that builds around that business, and that area is building up a lot more. But again, when I'm looking to invest my money in a Kickstarter or crowdfunding, we'll call it, because we've, as we kind of talked about earlier, how White Claw became the lexicon for hard seltzer. Kickstarter is the lexicon for crowdfunded.
Yep.
I don't see anything in Crowns and Hops where I would be like, yes, I want to do this. And in the same sense, I don't see anything in a lot of the local breweries that have opened and opened successfully that I would want to have put my money in. And sure as shit, there's probably a lot that I could have made money on, but I just not for me. But I kind of want to pass it to Nick because I know Nick's got for a while you had that dick money, but now you got a kid. What were your thoughts? Because I mean, you had money like me. You had nothing to care for. You didn't have a family member or anything like that. Like, what are your thoughts?
About the whole crowdfunding,
Crowdfunding
just
for breweries.
I mean, oh man. I'm for it. If it's a way to bring capital in to start a business and you don't want to go it the route of a credit union or a bank and have all that money tied up in loans and whatnot just to get started, even if it's just to offset a little bit of that, if you can figure out a way to market it and make it attractive for people to bring money in, I think it's a wonderful idea. And we're starting to see more of these breweries do that. The most recent one that comes to mind is Arctic Circle, the one in Chesterfield. One of the most recent ones that have just recently opened. They did the crowdfunding route, and I believe it was very successful. They met their goals. Now comes the matter of fulfilling those things, the obligations, if you will, which I'm sure is another whole time-consuming thing. Because I've invested in a couple things on Kickstarter, and I can't imagine the amount of work it goes into organizing it, establishing it, and then fulfilling it. Now, a lot of the things that I kickstarted, they're coming from different countries. I don't think anyone from, Canada or England is going to, no disrespect to Arctic Circle, is going to invest in a brewery in Chesterfield, Michigan. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. However, if you can make it work and you make it attractive enough, I think it'll work. I think it's a good idea. And, you kind of jumpstart your community outreach a little bit before you even open the doors.
I will say that this is a bit, in terms of looking for investment and getting the money, this is a little bit different. It's basically your difference between Twitter and Black Twitter. You have a brewery that is here that is Black owned, that reaching out to the Black community and is going to reach out to the entire Black community. It does not matter if you're in Inglewood, if you're in fucking Pierre, or you're in Detroit, or you're in Boston. It's a bit different, because for this you have to kind of look at it and just say that this is looking for support from what we consider the Black community, is the entirety of this country, not just Inglewood. So it's a little bit different. Now, granted, for myself, I probably, if I were to invest in this, I probably would be in the 250, and like the tier 1 range. I guess for me and like the breweries and what I've seen and what happened around here, that $100 gets you a lifetime membership. And when I see it's like $5,000 gets you 15% off of merchandise for a year, I'd be like, bro, a year? I'm not even in the state. A year? I'm gonna need a little bit longer than that, because it's gonna cost me a little bit more money to get out there just to even get some of this merchandise. So you have to, for this and for the Black community, it has to be treated differently, because we consider community all encompassing, not just Inglewood, Oakwood, or Oakland, Compton, and like their surrounding area. This is community, the entirety of the village that is the United States Black community. It's a little different. Little different.
Again, if there is a when I'm backing some type of crowdfunding, I usually decide on exactly what I want. So am I crowdfunding the product or am I crowdfunding the company? So if I'm crowdfunding the product, that basically means I'm prepaying for a product. That's what I'm crowdfunding for. So I'm buying a game, a board game, a video game, whatever type of product. I did like a battery powered cat ball that kind of like shoots in different directions. Like,
Oh, yes.
but it was a product that I wanted that I'm like, you know what? I would buy this, therefore I'm going to crowdfund it and purchase it. For here, like, if you want me to crowdfund, like, sure, the small dollars, like, hey, 5, 10, 20 bucks just to do like a small little crowdfund. But if you're looking for me to drop 1,000, 2,000, 2,500, I want a benefit to where I'm going to come out positive should you succeed. And not positive period, but positive should you succeed, because then I want to invest in you and the person. And that could be in the likes of some type of program where I invest in beer and I get beer back, or I get a monthly beer stipend or something like that, or even if it's delayed, like, hey, your beer stipend starts after our 1 year anniversary. Okay, well,
Some sort of dividend.
but then now I'm going to, one, promote your brewery, two, go to your brewery, and drink your beer, because I know if you succeed and I'm part of the helping that succession, I'm going to get rewarded later, and therefore you're going to get even more money from me when the brewery opens. So I think that's with any Kickstarter where you're investing in a business versus a product. A product, you're just prepaying the product. A business, on the other hand, I expect some type of dividend, and whether that dividend is monetary or liquid, because I'm the kind of person that can, in my head, I could be like, okay, I just drank 6 beers, that's $30 in my pocket. That's what I can do. AKA that's how I do in Vegas, where I'm like, oh, I had 12 Killians today. That's $60. I only lost 50. I made $10.
Yeah, I mean, I want to buy into it. It is kind of that thing where, I want to support not only by jumping into the investment, but I want to support by actually being at the brewery. And that's what makes it a little difficult for me, is that you're 3,000 miles away, and I want to support more. I want to support the business by going to the business and giving the business, and instead of just like dropping a couple $100, or in many of the people's cases that have been donating, of dropping 500 to they've got tier 7 for $25,000 investment. I mean, if I was in the area, if I had the capital,
well, let's say they're investing over in let's put it in Detroit, just New Center. They're going to open up a brewery in New Center.
Now, if it was, and I guess we need to give this a little bit of context. If we're talking New Center, New Center is roughly, we'll say, 4 miles north of downtown. I still would go low. My thing is that being in the northwest, the northwest most area of Detroit, in this corner here, that we are a desert, and we were supposed to have a brewery that was going to be opening here, and unfortunately that fell through. That we don't have anything. Like, if we had something here where I am in this corner of Detroit, I would definitely, if they had a sound business plan and everything was on the up and up, that I would do my damnedest to try and support them any way, shape, and form that I could. So.
All right. Well, that's going to do it, because we have been talking for a while about this. Unless somebody else has something, I'm going to give you 2 seconds. All right, that's going to do it. Better on Draft Podcast, the news segment 723, July 23rd. Stay tuned for King of the Hill, guys. If you are listening via the podcast, you can check out King of the Hill on our Instagram. That's how you're going to find it. But that's going to do it. Better on Draft 723. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Florence, y'all. Peace.
Is that in Kentucky, the water tower?
Yes.
The cross over the state line. Oh my God, I knew that.
Yep.
That's so
two weeks ago when I had to pick up because my girls stayed at grandma's house out in Kentucky, and so we met at the halfway point because grandma drove an hour more than I did. So it was like that was kind of the halfway point. And it was like the exit right after the Florence Shaw water tower.
It's amazing.
Yep.